At the age of 12, I experienced the joy of puppy love. My neighbor's dog had a litter, and among the newborns was a spirited white Chihuahua Terrier mix. I named him Rocky. From the start, Rocky was fearless and full of life, qualities that soon defined his reputation in our neighborhood. 2 years after Rocky came into my life, the same neighbor brought home a female light brown purebred Cocker Spaniel named Lanina. Rocky, ever the bold one, quickly made his acquaintance in the backyard. This liaison did not sit well with my neighbor, who in a fit of anger kicked Rocky out into the street. I was furious when I heard about this and asserted Rocky's rights, since I paid rent for our property, therefore he also paid rent. Eventually, Rocky and Lanina's ensuing encounters led to a litter of puppies, blending Rocky's spirited genes with Lanina's gentle elegance. As time went on, Rocky grew into the neighborhood king. He was small, but his bravado knew no bounds. He intimidated dogs both big and small. I still vividly recall an instance when a large dog dared to bark at me on our front lawn. In a flash, Rocky flew, and had the brazen intruder by the neck, sending him off yelping and defeated. Rocky's adventures were legendary. He would vanish for days, returning as if from a grand expedition, invariably covered in who knows what, leaving my brother or me the task of cleaning him up. Despite these escapades, Rocky maintained his reign as the toughest dog around, though not all were pleased with his rule. One day, Rocky's boldness caught up with him. A pack of neighborhood dogs, led by the same large dog Rocky had once humiliated, ambushed him right in front of our house. My mother, alerted by a neighbor, witnessed a horrific scene. 3 or 4 dogs attacking Rocky in a frenzied assault. Desperate, she resorted to throwing boiling water towards the pack, which finally scattered them. Rocky was severely injured, littered with wounds. His recovery was long and painful, but he managed to pull through, though he was never quite the same. His body bore the scars, and his once resolute spirit was diminished. He limped, and his lively bounce was replaced by a subdued stroll. Eventually, he transitioned into the undisputed king of our home. As college began, my life became busier, filled with studies and new responsibilities. During a 2-week stay with my dad to be closer to school, my father-in-law, without my consent, gave Rocky away to a friend. Heartbroken, I confronted the reality upon my return and immediately went to retrieve him. But it was too late. I found Rocky lying lifeless under a tree in his new yard. I was crushed, believing deep down that he died of a broken heart, missing his home, his family, his kingdom. To this day, I choose to remember Rocky as the vibrant and fearless ruler of our neighborhood. He was more than a pet. He was a legend, a fighter, and a friend. I loved him dearly and cling to the hope that someday, somehow, we will meet again. Not my story, but my mom's, who was at the time pregnant with my sister. Oscar was a rescue dog and gigantic. We don't know his exact mix, but he was black and reached my mom's hip. She's 5'10". Although he looked very intimidating, he was a complete sweetheart. Despite the rough life he had before my parents adopted him, he had never even growled at anyone besides the vacuum. One morning, about 8 months into her pregnancy, my mom was out walking, or waddling, alone, in a very isolated field, not too far from where we lived. A man approached her asking for directions. At first she wasn't particularly worried, but Oscar clearly was not okay with the man, as he growled and guarded my mom. After giving the man directions, she decided to head in the opposite direction, only to realize that he had chosen to follow her. Panicking as he came closer, she realized she was too pregnant to run and that no one else was nearby in case anything happened. The man eventually caught up to her and tried to grab her shoulder, only to almost have his hand bitten off by Oscar, who immediately jumped at him. My mom had Oscar on a leash, and the fact that she is a big, relatively strong woman was all that saved the man from being mauled by Oscar. He ran away, and my mom managed to waddle home. Oscar was rewarded with an entire package of his favorite kind of liver snack. We can't be sure that the man intended to attack my mom, and attacking a woman walking with a dog of that size is certainly suicidally stupid. However, the fact that this is the only person Oscar has ever threatened led my mom to conclude that Oscar probably saved her life that day. So far, I've had 2 dogs in my life. One is Jake, who is currently asleep in the hallway, and the other was Lily, who sadly passed away 10 years ago. We still live in the same house where Lily spent her entire life, and we keep her ashes and collar in a cabinet in the living room. Lately, my sleep schedule has been awful, so I've been going downstairs for snacks between 12 and 4 a.m. on most nights. Several times I've heard what sounds like a dog shuffling around in the living room. When I went in there to say hi, I realized the room was empty, as Jake was sleeping 2 stories above with my parents. They have AC, so we gotta keep our dog cool in summer. The room where I hear the sounds is the one with her ashes, so it adds up. After a few times of this happening, I brought it up to my mom. She instantly agreed and shared a story of her own. My mom recently moved rooms for the first time since we moved in. In her old room, Lily would sleep next to her every night when she was alive. My mom said that until she moved rooms, she would sometimes feel a dog jump onto the bed and cuddle up to her, but when she reached around, she would find nothing there. She eventually realized it was definitely Lily and began distinguishing which dog it was. If it was Jake, she'd hear his collar jingling. If there was no collar noise, it was Lily's ghost. She didn't move rooms because of that, by the way. She didn't mind it at all. Out of all the ghosts you could have, a ghost pet is probably the most welcome. I've started saying goodnight to her in the lounge every night, as she's probably been ignored all this time. Does anyone else have experience with ghost pets? I'm not sure if he saved my life, but definitely saved me from something bad. One of my husband's friends had a crazy girlfriend. After the breakup, she thought he was living with my husband and me. We would often see her drive by our house or be parked at the end of the street. We told her many times that he wasn't living with us, because he wasn't. Instead, he'd moved in with some other woman. Since we often rented out our extra bedroom, she didn't believe us. One night, my husband went out with some of his other friends, and I stayed home. It was pretty late, and I was asleep. My dog Rhodey, pictured here, woke me up barking at the front door. As you can tell from his pic, Rhodey was the nicest and most affable dog in the world. He loved literally everybody. I got up and walked down the hall to find him looking like a hellhound. He had all his hair up going down his back. He was violently barking at the door. His whole body was tense. His teeth were out too. Think Fluffy from Harry Potter, but with one head. I didn't understand why he was acting that way until I noticed the door was moving. Someone was trying the knob and shouldering the door. I looked through the peephole, and it was her. I didn't say anything. I just let Rhodey keep on doing his thing. She finally stopped and left. It took him a while to calm down, but he got many treats and cuddling that night. Rhodey lived to be 17 years old. He passed away last year from degenerative myelopathy. There will never be another dog as wonderful as him.